It's Labor Day in Nigeria, the day celebrated in many countries around the world, dedicated to the hard workers, people who work very hard, and there are a lot of rallies and demands for higher wages. Often it happens, higher wages, better working conditions, and all of that. So let's have a bit of this conversation with Bismarck Rewane, who is an economist and the chief executive officer at Financial Derivatives Company. It's a public holiday, and we've got to drag you in here. Thank you very much, and you look in business as usual.
Yep.
Thank you. It's good to have you here. Labor Day or May Day in Nigeria, look back 10, 20, 30 years ago in the days when you have a lot of factories and industries. So on a day like this, what do you usually see?
Well, basically, what you're saying is right. 20 years ago, the rate of unemployment in Nigeria was much lower than what it is today. Today, unemployment plus underemployment is about 32%. And urban unemployment is as high as 40%. Unemployment in the range of between 18 and 25 is even higher. So there's youth unemployment, there's urban unemployment, and there's general unemployment and underemployment. Now, the context of wages. Wages at 18,000 naira was the equivalent of $120 when it was structured about 6-7 years ago. At that time, the exchange rate was about 155. The exchange rate has more or less halved, 155 to 305. Okay, so effectively, Nigerian workers have lost about almost 60% of their wage because of the devaluation of the currency. Effectively, Nigerian workers between 2012 and now, between 97 naira a liter down to 87, now back to 145, they lost another 30%. Between then and now, the cost-reflective tariff for electricity has also gone up. Between then and now, inflation, cumulative inflation, between last time it was structured to now is about almost 90%. So 17% last year, 12%. When you put everything together, maybe about 60, 70%. So what I'm saying essentially is that the Nigerian worker, who is also slightly unproductive, because I'll come back to productivity, has lost anything between 80 to 90% of his income. So essentially, the man is living on 10% of what he was living on in 2010.
For you, where do you think the labor conversation should be? Is it more about wages or getting more people into the labor market?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, you are hitting the nail on the head, because the definition of a recession is a contraction in economic activity to the point where people start getting laid off. And people begin to save more, spend less, because they do not know what's going to happen to their jobs tomorrow. Now, to get out of the recession, we need to invest, we need to spend, and we need to borrow, right? All of this to get out of the recession. So there are three steps taking place simultaneously. One is trying to fix the currency. For those who believe that the currency is responsible for all of this, there are those who believe oil production and prices because of this, so fix that. Then thirdly, okay, why don't we just use this opportunity to actually invest and get the economy back to work? If all of these things happen, the lag between when you make a decision and when you feel the impact, right? And when the people begin to feel the effective impact on them, when they go from misery to prosperity, then that takes time. But what the workers and you and I are reflecting on in 2017, May 1, is one, how do we survive 2017? How long is this misery going to last? And quite frankly, even if there's a recovery, is it sustainable? That's the question. Now, the reality is that a wage increase at the government level, right, minimum wage increase at the government level, will help trigger this and serve as a catalyst to recover the economy. And I know the next question you're going to ask that if states cannot pay salaries at 18,000, how can they pay at 18,000 plus X?
Whether 25 or 30.
No, but the reality is that the states were getting 155 naira for every dollar 3 years ago. They are getting 305 or 309 for every dollar now, and they are likely to get 350 to every dollar when the rates converge. In that case,
so even the FAC allocation
will go up. So
looks big in terms of
right. So 466 billion naira is what was shared this month. If I take 15% of 466 next month or the month after, they will be sharing about 540 billion naira. Obviously, with 540 billion naira instead of 466 billion naira, instead of 320 billion naira 2 months ago, any state that is reasonable and is responsible and has proper governance should be able to pay, one, current salaries and increase, two, the arrears, and also invest in infrastructure in their own states. So it's a question of how are the states...
So you think despite inflation and the currency devaluation,
yes,
lost value, you think the state still has what it takes to
absolutely
raise wages?
And but the difficult question is that, do they need the number of employees they have? The truth is that in one state I know, an oil-producing state, they have 55,000 employees, when that state can easily do with 20,000 employees. So what you may want to do is to ask those people to work for agencies that will provide service to the government, so that they are not going to straight unemployment. They become contract staff hired by the government through a third party, and then you can negotiate terms so that they will begin to do. Those contractors can use them for other things apart from government work, and get higher productivity.
20, 30 years ago, today is a day when you see more of the Nubife, the Asbifi, yes, the bankers with the big banners.
Yes.
Those days are gone.
Oh no, those are gone. Everywhere in the world, you see what's happening. We're going into robotics. We're going into the use of technology. I do not think that the days of massive employment on sinecures and subsidized living, those days are gone. The world is becoming more efficient.
So even May Day may be going to be a man and machine day, because machines replacing more humans.
Look, we have driverless cars coming up, right?
Yeah.
We are going to have pilotless aircraft very soon, because that's the drone technology.
You're going to put me in a plane without a pilot.
Absolutely.
I'm going to feel really uncomfortable sitting there.
It'll be controlled. Look, from a control center in NASA, they're able to take something to the moon, land, bring it back. They can take it anywhere. Station. They go and destroy ISIS everywhere. Nobody's in that aircraft. Those things are done and done. So robotics and technology is displacing